Three men beat Billy Batts to death. 3 men buried the body. But only one of them was executed for it 9 years later. Tommy DeSimone is dead. Jimmy Burke died in prison. Henry Hill died of old age in Los Angeles. Same crime, 3 completely different endings. Why? That answer will tell you everything about how the most dangerous organization in American history actually worked. January 14th, 1979, Queens, New York. Tommy DeSimone walked out his front door, climbed into a car with the 2 men he trusted completely, and was never seen again. He was 28 years old. He thought he was about to become untouchable, the proudest night of his life. 15 years in the making. He had no idea he was already dead. His body was never found. He was declared legally dead by the FBI in 1990. No grave, no closure, just a missing persons report and a name on a list of people who walked into the wrong room and never walked out. To understand why Tommy died and why the 2 men who stood right beside him, didn't you first have to understand what Tommy DeSimone actually was? Not the character Joe Pesci played, not the sharkskin suit and the nervous laugh. The real man. Thomas Anthony DeSimone was born on May 24th, 1950, and he was known in the streets as Two-Gun Tommy because he always carried 2 weapons. His family wasn't a normal family. His grandfather, Rosario DeSimone, was a Los Angeles mob boss in 1922. His uncle, Frank DeSimone, ran the Los Angeles crime family in 1956. Violence wasn't something Tommy fell into. It was something he inherited. It was the water he drank growing up. By the time the DeSimone family relocated to New York, Tommy was already wired for the life. In 1965, 15-year-old Tommy became involved with the Lucchese crime family crew, headed by Capo Paul Vario. Truck hijackings, airport heists, loan sharking, everything in between. And working those same corners, running those same schemes, was a slightly older associate named Henry Hill. They worked together, stole together, and eventually killed together. Henry Hill would later say that Joe Pesci's portrayal in Goodfellas was 90 to 99% accurate, with one exception. Pesci stood 5 feet 3 inches. Tommy DeSimone stood over 6 feet tall and was built like a linebacker. He used that size deliberately to intimidate, to dominate, to terrorize. But the size wasn't the dangerous part. The impulse behind it was. Tommy's first known murder happened on March 15, 1968. He was walking down the street with Hill when he spotted Howard Goldstein, a man unknown to either of them. Hill recalled that DeSimone had wanted to kill someone simply to impress other gangsters. No motive, no beef, no reason anyone could point to. Just violence for the sake of it. That was the pattern from the beginning. Tommy didn't need a reason. He needed an excuse, and he was never short of those. Be honest, does someone like this terrify you? Or does some part of you understand how a world like that produces someone like Tommy DeSimone? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know. Now, here's where things permanently changed. William "Billy Batts" Benvena walked into the Sweet Lounge that June night in 1970 like a man who had earned every right to walk anywhere he pleased. And he had. 6 years in federal prison. Not a single name given to the FBI. Not a deal cut. Not a moment of weakness. The Gambino family threw him a welcome home party because that's what made men did. They remembered loyalty. Billy Batts was 49 years old, connected, protected. In the Mafia's blood structure, a made man was the closest thing to royalty that world produced. You couldn't lay a finger on one without formal permission from above. Everybody understood that. It was the one rule holding the entire organization together. Tommy understood it too. He just didn't respect it. When Bats spotted Tommy across the bar, something shifted in him. He remembered the kid. Remembered him young, scuffing shoes for pocket change. And so, Bats did what powerful men sometimes do when they want to remind a room who they are. He said it out loud. "Go home and get your shine box." Full laughter, glasses raised. Henry Hill spent the next hour keeping Tommy away from the building, talking him down, buying time. For a while, it worked. The party wound down. The last guests filtered out into the night, and then Tommy went back inside. What followed was not quick, and it was not clean. It was the kind of violence that comes from somewhere deeply personal, from a man who had spent his entire life being underestimated and had finally found a target he felt he could destroy. Burke joined in. Hill helped carry the body to the car. Bats was still alive in that trunk. He was still alive when they opened it hours later in upstate New York. Tommy made sure that changed. They buried him, moved the body 6 months later, and told themselves the problem was solved. Across the city, the Gambino family said nothing, made no threats, made no moves. They simply remembered. And in this world, a family that remembers is far more dangerous than one that retaliates immediately. The Billy Bats murder should have been Tommy's wake-up call. He had crossed the most sacred line in organized crime, killed a made man without permission or justification. The smart move was to disappear into the background, keep earning, and let time do its work. Tommy did the exact opposite. Later that same year, Tommy was at a bar where a young low-level kid named Michael Gianco worked. Everyone called him Spider. He fetched drinks, ran errands, stayed out of the way. The kind of kid who understood his place and stayed in it. One night, Tommy was drunk and playing cards. He decided to shoot Spider in the foot. Not because of a beef, not because of a slight, because Tommy thought it was funny. Spider recovered, came back to work, and a few weeks later made the fatal mistake of answering back when Tommy pushed him again. Tommy pulled his gun and shot him 3 times in the chest. Spider died on the floor of that bar. Henry Hill said that was the moment he understood exactly what Tommy was. Not a gangster, not a criminal, a predator. A man who killed because the act of it made him feel something that nothing else could. This is where people get divided. Some argue the Mafia had no choice but to use men like Tommy, that organized crime requires that level of violence to function. Others say Tommy was simply a liability from the start, and Vario should have cut him loose years earlier. Which side are you on? Say it in the comments. Then, in 1974, Tommy murdered a Gambino-connected associate named Ronald Foxy Jerothe, who was the protege of a rising Gambino figure named John Gotti. Another Gambino thread pulled. Another reason for the most powerful family in New York to want him gone. By the mid-1970s, Tommy DeSimone had built something most men in his world spent their entire careers trying to avoid a reputation for pure, uncontrollable chaos. December 11th, 1978, JFK Airport. $6 million walked out of a Lufthansa cargo building in under 90 minutes and disappeared into the Queen's night, the largest cash robbery in American history, planned by Jimmy Burke. executed by a crew of Lucchese associates. Tommy DeSimone was one of them. For one brief moment, everything aligned. The job was clean. The money was real. Then Jimmy Burke started killing everyone. One by one, the Lufthansa crew vanished. Shot, strangled, dumped in car trunks, buried in vacant lots across Queens and Brooklyn. By the summer of 1979, 7 people connected to the heist were dead. Burke wasn't emotional about it. He was surgical. But Burke didn't kill Tommy. Not because he didn't have reason to. Tommy knew everything: the planning, the crew, the money. He was exactly the kind of loose end Burke was systematically removing. The certainty that Tommy had access to the Lufthansa money, plus the strong likelihood that he knew his lover, Teresa Ferrara, was an FBI informant, further sealed his fate in multiple directions. But someone else was already moving first. The FBI was now watching Burke's entire network with a focus that hadn't existed before December. Every associate under a microscope. Every move being logged. And in that environment, Tommy DeSimone, impulsive, volatile, incapable of staying invisible, had become not just a Gambino family problem, but a Lucchese family problem too. Paul Vario, Tommy's protector for over a decade, was running out of reasons to keep shielding him. The Gambinos were calling in their debt, and Tommy, oblivious to all of it, was still walking around Queens like a man who believed his reputation made him bulletproof. It didn't. It never had. Tommy DeSimone had wanted one thing his entire career. Not the money, not the reputation, not the fear he saw in people's eyes when he walked into a room. He wanted to be made to take the oath, to become a formal member of La Cosa Nostra, untouchable, in the way that Billy Batts had been untouchable. The irony was suffocating. Tommy had killed a made man because he couldn't stand the hierarchy. And now, the only thing he wanted was to join it. In early January 1979, word came through. The Lucchese family was ready to make him. A ceremony had been arranged. All Tommy had to do was get in a car and show up. He got in the car. 2 men he knew and trusted were driving. They said they were heading to the ceremony location. Tommy believed them because he wanted to believe them. Because a man who wants something badly enough will walk through any door you hold open for him. The location was a house in Queens. Tommy walked inside. The room was empty. No Lucchese family members. No ceremony. No oath. Just silence. And then the understanding of what that silence meant. Henry Hill maintains that John Gotti personally killed DeSimone. According to another mob insider who claimed he was present, Tommy's death was slow and painful. Unlike the quick ending shown in Goodfellas, some accounts, however, suggest it was actually Jimmy Burke who ordered or carried out the killing as part of his Lufthansa cleanup, while Gotti's crew was simultaneously investigating the murders of Billy Batts and Foxy Jerothe. What is certain is this: the Lucchese family approved it, the Gambino family carried it out, and the fake-making ceremony, the cruelest possible trap, was the lure they chose because it was the one thing Tommy DeSimone could never resist. 3 men were in that car the night Billy Batts was beaten to death. So, why did only one of them end up in a Queens grave? Start with Jimmy Burke. Jimmy Burke was Irish-American on both sides, and that single biographical fact, something he had absolutely no control over, is the first reason he survived. In the Mafia, to become a made man, you had to be 100% Italian. No exceptions. Jimmy could never take the oath. which meant he existed in a strange, protected middle ground, too valuable to discard, too outside the formal structure to be held fully accountable by its rules. When a made man is killed, the punishment falls on those who aspire to that status. Jimmy never could, but ethnicity alone didn't save him. His value did. Burke was the most productive earner the Lucchese family had. Truck hijackings, airport heists, a decades-long revenue operation. Killing Jimmy Burke didn't just mean losing a soldier. It meant dismantling an entire machine. The family ran the numbers. The numbers didn't favor execution. And then there was the most important factor. Jimmy was smart enough to let Tommy take the blame. After Billy Batts, Burke said nothing, drew no attention, stepped back into the shadows, and let Tommy's chaos become the story. When the Gambino family pointed fingers, there was only one finger worth pointing at. Tommy had thrown the first punch. Tommy had finished it. Tommy had killed Foxy Jerothe. Tommy was the pattern. Jimmy Burke was just a man who had been standing nearby. In the Mafia, proximity is only a crime if you can't make yourself invisible afterward. Jimmy always could. Now, Henry Hill. Hill was half Irish, half Italian like Burke. He could never be made. But that's where the similarities ended. Because Jimmy Burke survived through value and strategic intelligence, Henry Hill survived through something far simpler. He was never important enough to kill. Think about what each man actually did the night Billy Batts died. Tommy beat him unconscious. Burke shot him 4 times in the chest. Henry Hill helped carry the body to the car. That was his role. The man who helped with the heavy lifting. In the Gambino family's accounting of that night, Hill was a footnote, present, complicit, but not the architect of anything. In the Mafia, footnotes don't get executed, they get forgotten. Hill also had something else working for him: timing. In 1980, facing narcotics charges, Hill walked into the FBI and started talking names, dates, locations, the entire operational structure of the Lucchese crime family. 50 convictions followed. Paul Vario went to prison. Jimmy Burke went to prison. Hill entered witness protection and disappeared behind the one organization in the Mafia couldn't outmaneuver. Hill was eventually removed from witness protection in 1987. He had blown his cover, kept committing crimes, couldn't stop being who he was. And yet, the Mafia never came for him. He wrote books, gave interviews, appeared on television, and lived openly for 25 years after testifying. They let him live because killing him changed nothing. He had already talked. The damage was done. Henry Hill died on June 12, 2012, one day after his 69th birthday. Heart disease, Los Angeles, natural causes. The Mafia never came. So let's say it plainly. The Mafia didn't kill Tommy DeSimone because he murdered Billy Batts. They killed him because of everything that came after. Billy Batts was the original sin. Spider revealed the pattern. Foxy Jerothe confirmed it. And the Lufthansa aftermath, with the FBI dismantling everything they built, made the case impossible to ignore any longer. The Lucchese family sat with a simple equation. On one side, Tommy DeSimone. An earner, yes. A killer, certainly. But also a man who had murdered 2 Gambino-connected individuals without permission, who drew law enforcement attention like a magnet, who couldn't be reasoned with, predicted, or controlled. A man whose next act of violence could trigger a war with the most powerful family in New York at precisely the worst possible moment. On the other side, peace, stability, and the continuation of business. The decision wasn't difficult. It was arithmetic. Tommy's death also sent a message that echoed far beyond Queens. It told every associate and every family exactly where the ceiling was. You can earn, you can steal, you can even kill if you have permission, if it serves the organization, if it is sanctioned from above. But you cannot place your ego above the structure. You cannot kill made men because they embarrassed you in a bar. You cannot be the man that nobody can predict or control. If you are, the organization will eventually decide that the cost of keeping you alive outweighs every dollar you've ever made them. And on the day they make that decision, you're already gone. Goodfellas is remembered as a film about glamour, about the seduction of a life lived outside the rules. Scorsese put that seduction on screen so vividly that audiences have spent 30 years romanticizing men who were, at their core, predators feeding on everything around them. But underneath the soundtrack and the tracking shots and the narration, Goodfellas is actually about one thing: the price of being the one man nobody can control. Jimmy understood the game. He made money, stayed quiet, kept himself useful, and let other men become the story. Henry understood when to run. Tommy understood neither. He thought violence was currency. He thought reputation was armor. He thought the very thing that made him dangerous made him safe. On January 14th, 1979, he walked into a room in Queens, expecting to finally become what he always believed he deserved to be. Instead, the room was empty. And here's the question I want you to sit with. If Tommy had just stayed quiet after Billy Bats, if he had never touched Spider, never killed Foxy Jerothe, never drawn another piece of heat, do you think the Gambinos ever collect? Or does the original sin always catch up? Comment below. Agree or disagree, there's no middle ground here. If you want more stories like this, the real ones, behind the films and the mythology, subscribe. There are more names on that list, more rooms nobody walked out of. Tommy DeSimone's file still sits open somewhere. A missing persons report, no body, no closure, just a name. If this story hit different for you, like the video, it genuinely helps this channel reach people who want real history, not recycled headlines. And I'll see you in the next one.